I said, well, but you pointed to me. You know, what were you saying when you pointed to me? And he says, well, I told my friends I just wanted to see what that crazy woman wanted.
Example of how that show wasn't just all sweet all the time. You know, there was some salt and pepper there. I thought it was really...
They seemed like the perfect TV family. But behind the scenes of the Waltons, tensions simmered. Rumors had it first. Ellen Corby, everyone's beloved Grandma Walton, reportedly couldn't stand Richard Thomas, and the reason might shock you. Was it a clash of egos, generational divide, or something far more personal? For years, fans believed Ellen and Richard shared the same warmth off-screen as they did on the Waltons. Turns out, that couldn't be further from the truth. Their chemistry? Pure acting. Behind the scenes, Ellen's dislike for Thomas was real and sharper than anyone guessed. If this is evidently true, we'll find out now. Let the records show. For many years, fans of the Waltons have looked back with affection on the show's portrayal of family life during the Great Depression and World War II. Two of the central figures in the series were Ellen Corby, who played the stern yet loving Grandma Esther Walton, and Richard Thomas, who portrayed the sensitive and intelligent John Boy Walton. As with any long-running television show, there have been rumors and bits of speculation about what went on behind the scenes. One persistent question some viewers have wondered about is whether Ellen Corby disliked or even hated Richard Thomas. While that rumor has floated around in fan discussions for decades, the truth is more grounded. And as is often the case with such stories, it turns out to be much less dramatic and much more human. Ellen Corby and Richard Thomas came from very different backgrounds, not only in terms of their ages and experience, but also their approaches to the craft of acting. Ellen Corby had been in the entertainment industry since the 30s. She had worked as a script supervisor and then as a character actress in films for decades, before becoming a household name on the Waltons. By the time the show began in 1972, she was already in her 60s and brought with her a deep reservoir of experience and professionalism. Richard Thomas, on the other hand, was a young actor in his early 20s at the start of the show, and he quickly became the face of the series as the introspective John Boy, whose writings served as the narrative thread of the show. The age gap and differences in life experience between the two actors naturally led to different energy levels and possibly different styles of working on set. Because of those differences, some fans began speculating that there might have been tension between the two. Rumors began to spread that perhaps Ellen Corby, known for her serious and sometimes stern demeanor, did not get along with the younger and more free-spirited Richard Thomas. These rumors were fueled further when Thomas decided to leave the show in 1977 at the end of Season 5 to pursue other acting opportunities. At that same time, Ellen Corby had suffered a serious stroke in 1976 and was fighting to return to her role despite her ongoing health challenges. Some speculated that Thomas's departure may have created friction with other cast members who remained committed to the show during difficult times. However, when we look more closely at the available facts and interviews over the years, there is no credible evidence that Ellen Corby ever harbored any hatred or even strong dislike toward Richard Thomas. In fact, much of what we do know suggests that, while they may not have been especially close outside of work, they held a strong mutual respect for each other. Richard Thomas, for his part, has never spoken negatively about Ellen Corby in any public forum. On the contrary, in the many interviews he has given over the years, he has consistently described his time on the Waltons as a warm and formative experience. He has often expressed appreciation for the cast as a whole, and has spoken fondly of the close-knit family atmosphere that developed over the course of the series. When Ellen Corby suffered her stroke, the cast rallied around her, and Richard Thomas was no exception. The respect for what she accomplished, both before and after her health crisis, is something he and others have acknowledged repeatedly. If there were moments of disagreement or difference in perspective, they were likely the kind that occur on any set, especially one involving actors from very different generations. These would have been ordinary, fleeting tensions rather than any deep or long-standing dislike. It's easy to project interpersonal drama onto television casts, especially when the show in question portrays such deep emotional connections on screen. But what Ellen Corby and Richard Thomas gave to the Waltons was a sense of authenticity, which could only have come from a place of genuine respect and shared purpose, even if their personal rapport was more professional than personal. The bond between the actors, including Ellen Corby and Richard Thomas, was part of what made the show feel so real and so comforting. Whatever personal differences may have existed, they were far outweighed by the professionalism and shared commitment that brought the Walton family to life on screen. Ellen Corby was the heart of that family in many ways, and Richard Thomas was its voice. Together, they helped create something truly enduring. So no, to set the record straight, Ellen Corby did not hate Richard Thomas. What they shared was not enmity, but a chapter in television history that continues to touch lives even decades later. And that, more than any rumor, is the truth worth remembering. Let's peek on their connection on and off the set. Bridging generational gap. The connection between Corby and Thomas is deeply rooted in their work on the show, one of the most beloved television dramas. Although they came from very different backgrounds and generations, the two actors played essential roles in shaping the emotional core of the show. Ellen Corby, as Grandma Esther Walton, represented the family's strength, traditions, and enduring values. Richard Thomas, as John Boy Walton, symbolized youthful idealism, self-discovery, and the changing tides of modern American life. While they didn't always share a great deal of screen time, their roles complemented each other in important and meaningful ways. Together, they were part of a larger ensemble that portrayed a family with such sincerity and depth that it resonated with viewers across generations. On screen, Ellen Corby's character was the stern yet loving grandmother, deeply rooted in traditional values, faith, and discipline. She was not one for nonsense, but her love for her family ran deep, even if she rarely expressed it with warm words. Richard Thomas's John Boy was quite different. As the eldest son of the Walton clan, John Boy was gentle, thoughtful, and expressive. His character was based loosely on the show's creator, Earl Hamner Jr., and his writing served as the narrative voice of the series. John Boy wanted to be a writer, and much of the show was told through his eyes. This generational contrast between the old ways and the new ideas was a recurring theme in the series, and Ellen Corby and Richard Thomas embodied that contrast in their respective roles. While Grandma Walton and John Boy didn't always have prominent one-on-one scenes, the emotional connection between them was unmistakable. Esther's quiet support of John Boy's dreams, even if not always vocalized, added depth to the family dynamic. She may not have always understood or agreed with his ambitions, but she respected his dedication and his character. In the same way, John Boy respected the strength and resilience of his grandmother, recognizing the sacrifices she and his grandfather had made to hold the family together during tough times. Their shared presence in family dinners, holiday episodes, and key emotional moments created an understated but important thread that helped define the heart of the Walton family. Off-screen, the connection between Ellen Corby and Richard Thomas was one built on professionalism and mutual respect. Ellen Corby had been a working actress in Hollywood for decades before joining the Waltons. Born in 1911, she had an extensive resume that included everything from westerns to dramas, and she had even earned an Academy Award nomination long before the show began. She was known for her no-nonsense attitude and strong work ethic. Richard Thomas, born in 1951, was a talented young actor who quickly became the breakout star of the Waltons. He brought a gentle energy and deep emotional range to the role of John Boy, capturing the imagination of audiences across the country. Though their personalities and working styles were likely quite different, there is no evidence to suggest that there was ever serious conflict between them. Rumors sometimes crop up about on-set tensions between cast members, especially when they come from different generations or have differing levels of fame. But in the case of Ellen Corby and Richard Thomas, the facts point to a peaceful and respectful working relationship. Ellen Corby's reputation on set was that of a strong, determined woman who valued professionalism above all else. When she suffered a major stroke in 1976, the entire cast, including Richard Thomas, supported her recovery and eventual return to the show. She returned to her role as Grandma Walton with remarkable courage, even as her speech and mobility were significantly affected. Around that same time, Richard Thomas made the difficult decision to leave the Waltons to pursue other opportunities in film and theater. His departure was not seen as a betrayal or source of resentment by most of the cast, but rather as a natural step for a young actor whose career was gaining momentum. If anything, Ellen Corby likely admired his ambition and dedication to his craft, as she herself had devoted her life to acting. Over the years, Richard Thomas has never spoken negatively about Ellen Corby. In interviews and public appearances, he has always spoken highly of his time on the Waltons and of the cast as a whole. He often refers to the show as a formative experience and has mentioned the supportive, almost familial atmosphere that developed on set. While they may not have been close friends off camera, their performances were deeply intertwined. Each brought something unique to the show. Ellen Corby gave it grit and grounded strength, while Richard Thomas brought tenderness, reflection, and youthful optimism. Together, they helped create a portrait of family life that was rich, authentic, and deeply moving. It is this shared commitment to the story and the characters that forms the true bond between them. Both Ellen Corby and Richard Thomas are remembered with admiration and affection. They stood on opposite ends of the family tree, one representing the roots, the other reaching for the future. But they were part of the same whole. The series would not have had the same impact without either of them. Plus, the general warmth and charm of each episode. The show's magic. The Waltons is one of those classic American TV shows that really captured the hearts of a lot of people when it first came on the air. It all started back when Earl Hamner Jr. created the series based on his own family and childhood experiences growing up in rural Virginia during the Great Depression. The show premiered in 1972 and quickly stood out because it focused on the everyday lives of a large family living on Walton's Mountain. The setting was simple but very relatable, and the characters were warm, real, and full of heart. You had John Walton, the hard-working father, Olivia, the loving mother, and their 7 kids all dealing with life's ups and downs together. What made the beginning so special was how it felt like a peek into a simpler time with strong family values and the kind of stories that made people reflect on their own family memories. The show didn't rely on flashy drama or big twists, but instead on genuine moments of love, struggle, and triumph. The success of the Waltons really came from how it connected with its audience. At a time when TV was starting to explore more edgy and complicated stories, the Waltons felt like a comforting return to wholesome family storytelling. The characters were relatable, and you could see yourself in their struggles, whether it was dealing with loss, financial troubles, or growing up. It was a show that gave you a feeling of hope and resilience. The performances were great, especially Richard Thomas, who played John Boy Walton. The show won several awards, including Emmys and a Golden Globe, which was a big deal because it meant critics and viewers both appreciated it. The way it portrayed the strength of family bonds during tough times was something that resonated deeply with the audience. It became a staple of Sunday night TV for many households and was known for its heartfelt narration by the adult John Boy looking back on his youth. It wasn't just entertainment. It felt like a meaningful story about real life. The episodes touched on important themes like sacrifice, faith, and the importance of sticking together, which made it stand out from other shows. Eventually, all good things come to an end, and The Waltons was no exception. The show ran for 9 seasons, which is pretty impressive, but by the early 80s, the original series wrapped up in 1981. Over the years, some of the younger actors grew up and moved on to other projects, and TV audiences were also changing with new trends and tastes. Still, the legacy of the Waltons didn't just disappear. After the original series ended, there were several TV movies made that continued to follow the Walton family and their story. These movies gave fans a chance to see what happened to their favorite characters and kept the spirit of the show alive. The end of the series marked the close of a chapter in classic family television, but the Waltons remained a beloved memory for many. Its message about family love and perseverance is something that people still talk about and appreciate even decades later. Looking back, it's clear The Waltons was more than just a TV show. It was a cultural touchstone that reminded viewers of the value of home and family during tough times. Casts then and now. Michael Learned, who played Olivia Walton, the matriarch of the family, continued acting for many years after The Waltons ended. She had a strong TV career beyond the show, starring in other series like Nurse and guest starring on popular shows like ER and Criminal Minds. Michael is often praised for her ability to bring warmth and strength to Olivia, and she kept working steadily in television and theater for decades. Even though she stepped back from the spotlight occasionally, she has stayed connected to fans through interviews and appearances at nostalgic TV events. The oldest Walton sibling, John Walton Jr., was played by Ralph Waite. After the Waltons wrapped up, Ralph continued acting in both film and TV. He had roles in popular shows like NCIS and The West Wing, and even worked as a director and producer. What's interesting about Ralph is that outside of acting, he was very involved in social activism and worked on environmental causes, showing a side of him that many fans didn't see on screen. Ralph passed away in 2014, but his legacy lives on through his work both on and off camera. Next up is Michael, the charming middle brother played by Richard Masur. After the show, Richard Masur became a well-known character actor, appearing in many movies and TV shows like Ghostbusters, Risky Business, and My Favorite Year. He's one of those actors you might recognize even if you don't immediately connect the face to the Waltons. Richard has kept busy with steady work in Hollywood and is respected for his versatility. He's also been active in the Screen Actors Guild, helping to support fellow actors. Patricia Neal, who guest-starred occasionally, was a renowned actress even before the Waltons, and her career spanned decades on stage and screen. But the regular younger sister, Mary Ellen Walton, played by Judy Norton, took an interesting turn. Judy kept acting for a while, but eventually focused on other passions, including directing and working in theater education. She has also been involved in Christian ministry and motivational speaking, showing a personal side that grew stronger as she moved away from Hollywood. John Walmsley, who played Jason Walton, was not just an actor, but also a musician. After the Waltons, John kept pursuing his music career, releasing albums and working as a session musician and composer. He has contributed to film and TV soundtracks and toured as a guitarist and singer. Jason's calm and artistic personality seemed to carry over into John's real life, where music became a big focus. Eric Scott, who portrayed Ben Walton, also stayed in the entertainment industry. After the series, Eric appeared in various TV shows and movies, but eventually moved toward directing and producing. Like some of his castmates, he balanced both sides of the camera and has been involved in different creative projects over the years. David W. Harper, who played the youngest brother Jim Bob Walton, continued acting mostly in guest roles and smaller projects. He is also known for being active in fan conventions and keeping in touch with the show's fans. Jim Bob's youthful innocence on the show made him memorable, and David has embraced that connection with viewers even as his career took different directions. Mary McDonough, who played Erin Walton, the oldest sister, stayed in the spotlight for a long time after the series ended. She worked as an actress, but also became an author, writing about health and family issues. Mary's life off-screen included some challenges, but she has been open about her experiences in interviews and books, which helped many fans relate to her beyond the show. Finally, there is Kami Kotler, who played Elizabeth Walton, the youngest daughter. Kami left acting for many years to focus on education and became a school teacher and principal. She has talked in interviews about how important teaching was to her and how she enjoys inspiring young people. In recent years, she has returned occasionally to participate in Walton reunions and special events, blending her love of education and the show's legacy. Ellen Corby. Ellen Corby was one of those actresses who left a quiet but powerful mark on television history, especially through her role in The Waltons. Born in Racine, Wisconsin, she grew up in Philadelphia and later moved to California, where her journey in the film industry really began. She did not start out as a famous actress, though. In fact, she spent years working behind the scenes as a script girl and assistant in the industry. That background gave her a deep understanding of how stories were built and how characters should feel real. It also gave her a quiet patience that would eventually become part of her charm on screen. She started acting in the 30s, and for a long time took on small, uncredited roles. Her career was a slow build, which speaks volumes about her persistence. Her big breakthrough came in 1948, when she received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress for her role in I Remember Mama. That role proved she had serious acting chops, and from there, she carved out a career as a dependable character actress. Over the next few decades, she played in dozens of films and TV shows, often portraying strong, dependable, or quirky women. She was never the leading lady type, but she had a way of making even small roles memorable. That kind of consistency is what kept her working steadily in an industry that often forgets people, especially women as they age. Everything changed for Ellen Corby when she landed the role of Grandma Esther Walton on the beloved TV series The Waltons in the early 70s. That show became a cultural touchstone, and her role as the strong, loving, and sometimes stern grandmother made her a household name. Audiences adored her for her warmth and authenticity. She brought a real sense of grounding to the show, and her chemistry with the rest of the cast, especially with Grandpa Walton played by Will Geer, was something special. Her work on The Waltons earned her 3 Emmy Awards, and she became the face of what many Americans thought of as the ideal grandmother. What made her performance so touching was that she never overplayed it. She was just real, and people connected to that in a big way. But her time on The Waltons was not without difficulty. In 1976, she suffered a major stroke, which impacted her speech and mobility. For most people, that would have been the end of their acting career, especially on a show where lines and timing are everything. But Ellen Corby was not like most people. She worked incredibly hard in therapy and managed to return to the show a year later. The writers even worked her stroke into the storyline, giving Grandma Walton her own recovery arc, which made her return even more poignant. It was another example of her strength, both as an actress and as a person. Her resilience turned her into an even more respected figure, both on and off screen. After The Waltons ended in the early 80s, Ellen Corby mostly stepped away from acting. She made occasional appearances in reunion specials and TV movies, but her main focus became living a quieter life. She was never the kind of celebrity who chased fame. She had a peaceful presence about her and seemed more interested in the craft of acting than in the spotlight. In her later years, she lived in California and kept close with some of her Waltons castmates. Her health continued to be fragile, but she maintained the dignity and grace that had defined her for so many years. Ellen Corby passed away in 1999 at the age of 87. She left behind a legacy of quiet strength and persistence. Her work on the Waltons continues to resonate with viewers decades later, and she remains one of the most beloved TV grandmothers in American pop culture. Richard Thomas. Richard Thomas is one of those actors who managed to start young in the business and actually stay grounded, which is pretty rare in Hollywood. Most people know him best as John Boy Walton, the thoughtful eldest son from the Waltons, but his life and career have stretched far beyond that iconic role. Born in 1951 in New York City, Richard was surrounded by the arts from the very beginning. Both of his parents were professional dancers with the New York City Ballet, so creativity was basically in his DNA. He started acting when he was just a kid, appearing in commercials and doing theater work. Unlike many child actors who get burned out or lost along the way, Richard had a certain steadiness to him from early on. He got his first real acting gig on television when he was about 7 years old, and by the time he was a teenager, he had already worked with some major names in theater and film. One of his early film roles was in Winning alongside Paul Newman, which gave him more visibility, but it wasn't until 1972 that everything truly changed for him. That was the year the Waltons premiered on CBS, and he was cast as John Boy Walton, the sensitive, intelligent, and aspiring writer based on series creator Earl Hamner Jr. himself. Richard's portrayal of John Boy struck a chord with millions of viewers. He brought a kind of quiet thoughtfulness and earnestness that made the character completely believable. People didn't just watch John Boy, they rooted for him. The Waltons became a massive hit, especially during its early seasons, and Richard Thomas was at the center of it all. He won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a drama series in 1973, which was a huge deal, especially for someone in their early 20s. His fame shot up fast, but he stayed remarkably humble about it. Part of what made his performance so strong was that he never overdid it. He didn't play John Boy like a star, he played him like a real person with dreams and doubts and flaws. For many viewers, he became the heart of the show, and his voice at the beginning and end of each episode helped frame the series like a warm memory. After 5 seasons, Richard decided to leave the Waltons to explore other opportunities. That was a big move, because he was walking away from a role that had made him a household name. But he was always interested in variety and didn't want to be typecast. He returned for a few reunion specials and TV movies over the years, but for the most part, he moved on. What's impressive is that he actually managed to keep working steadily after leaving such a massive hit. That's not something every actor from a beloved show can say. He did film theater and lots of television over the next few decades, proving that he was more than just John Boy. Richard Thomas has had a rich and varied career post-Waltons. He's done Shakespeare on stage, he's starred in thrillers, and he even played the villain in a few roles which surprised fans who were used to his more gentle persona. One of his more famous roles after the Waltons was in the mini-series adaptation of Stephen King's It in 1990, where he played the adult version of Bill Denbrough. He also had recurring roles on shows like The Americans and Ozark, and he has worked steadily in both drama and theater. In recent years, he returned to Broadway and regional theater, where he's earned strong reviews for his performances. Off-screen, Richard has kept a pretty low profile compared to many celebrities. He's known for being down-to-earth and thoughtful, much like the character that made him famous. He's also been open about the challenges of fame, especially when it comes at a young age. He's spoken in interviews about how grateful he is for his time on the Waltons, but also about how important it was for him to grow beyond it. He married twice and is a father of 5 children, including triplets, which he has joked is its own kind of drama. Through it all, he's kept a calm and steady energy that has made him respected not just as an actor, but as a person in the entertainment industry. Today, Richard Thomas is considered something of a veteran in the business. He's not one of those actors constantly in the headlines, but he's earned the kind of respect that comes from decades of solid, honest work. Fans still recognize him from the Waltons, but many have also come to admire the wide range of characters he's played since. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Comment below and let us know what nostalgic series you want to see next.